Rich isn't even here.
No, he's zooming. Ended up coming in.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had surgery. Hip
replacement.
Yeah, he had a hip replacement. He's still.
Colorado.
Not being able to drive.
That's pretty good these days. The funny and you get right up and walk like as soon as they're done with it. And
I don't, it's not a long recovery like you think, but.
resolution.
Close.
You didn't get a meeting or at the end? Okay. Where's your donut? I got.
Not today.
I'm resisting, yeah.
I'm not.
Good for you.
Jeez. Have you had a Paula's donut?
No. Oh, my goodness.
Best donut in the, oh, maybe the world.
What's
Not just. How you.
Bakeries from there.
So.
Okay.
We had this.
They're a buffalo.
So you.
Very good. Nate
Might have to.
drove to Buffalo. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So what's
That's come up, especially
Ripley?
Oh, it's. I haven't heard or had a pause. Don't know.
Was Rich gonna put his camera on?
I can.
Okay.
Oh.
Thank
You can admit Rich.
Yeah, I did. A couple.
Vote on that.
Had a pause.
Mhm. Yeah. Very good.
Here's Rich.
Absolutely.
Put your tax bracket, you notice.
Oh, yeah.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
You got that closer.
I don't know if everyone knows that Rich had a hip replacement surgery and he's home recovering, but still working hard and wishes he could be here, right, Rich?
Yep, 2 weeks ago yesterday, I was laying on the operating table. But as you can see, I'm up and I'm pretty mobile right now. So
Different one. You managed to get out of that one.
We ready to figure?
Are we good?
Good.
I know.
Anything for applause.
How many people?
Good morning. We'll go ahead and get started. It is 10:05 and we'd like to call the order the Board of Directors meeting of the Chautauqua County Industrial Development Agency, meeting at the BWB Building, 201 West 3rd Street, Jamestown, New York, and via electronically through YouTube and Zoom. We'll do a roll call attendance. Gary Henry is here. Brad Walters.
Here.
Rhonda Johnson.
Here.
Steve Thorpe.
Here.
Kevin Muldowney.
Here.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Here.
Dan Hetzenrader. Here. Good morning. It's good to have everybody here this morning. It's nice to be able to meet in one location, and there's a lot of people around this table. So I'll have to make sure I get to say hi to everybody this morning. There's a few of you that I haven't even had a chance to meet with in person. We'll go ahead and talk about our minutes. And you should have already received the minutes previously, had a chance to review those. Do we have a motion to accept the December 27th, 2022 minutes?
I make that motion.
Rhonda and Brad, thank you. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? The minutes have been approved. We're glad to have PJ Wendell here with us this morning. Would you like to say anything? I don't mean to interrupt you, but like. I should have given him a little warning.
Happy birthday to Mark and.
25 looks great.
35.
So realistically, I talked about it last month when I was here, and if you look at yesterday, we had some fabulous news in the North County with Dunkirk receiving 10 million from a DRI. I think it was very fitting to see, Mark's team yesterday with the IDA and Nate and everyone, the partnership involved, because they did do a tremendous amount of work for this. Hats off to Vince DeJoy, the $20 million man. He secured 10 million for Jamestown, now 10 million again for Dunkirk. But I think that just goes to show us what things are happening here. I talked to Paula, who was our real estate broker for Blanchard from the a white-in sale, and she said, you know, the buzz about what's happening in Chautauqua County is starting to move around the state, and that's great news. Again, hearing it from Steve Aquario from NISAC, you know, we're making noise out here in Western New York, and that's phenomenal. Because again, we're always told people are leaving, this is it, the glass is half empty. I beg to differ. We're going to talk a little bit more. One of our first agenda items on our new business is something I want to, we'll talk about again. But there is a lot. And I've said this to people, if you want to go out and find the negativity, you're going to find it. But if I'm never going to come out here and say, oh, this is bad or that's bad. The glass is always going to be half full for me. And I'm going to keep working. I know Mark and Rich and the team from the IDA and the partnership have the same philosophies and same vision. So really excited. When you look at our, the pool of money, roughly about a figure $20 million plus is what's come into the Northern Chautauqua County in the last year between, Senator Schumer's money for the harbor for Dunkirk, other projects we had in Northern Chautauqua County, Welch's, the city of Dunkirk, the White Inn and Silver Creek. I'm losing my thought here. And then you look at yesterday's turn. That's just phenomenal. They don't give that money to places that aren't doing well. So the vision is here, the work effort's here, and the potential is definitely here. So really excited about what's been happening and to hear more of it in the future to come. So Mark, thanks so much. And everybody on the team here, hats off. You guys do a tremendous job. Thank you.
Thank you, PJ.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and move into new business, starting with new business A, airport market feasibility analysis. And Mark, is that something you want to speak to?
Yeah, sure. And I want to introduce Shannon Barnhart, who is the manager of the county airports, and Brian Bates works with her. He's also with the airports group. And we're going to talk about something that I know that that has been sort of an ongoing thing for the county for a while, bringing back essential air service to Jamestown Airport. And, if you look back in 2020, and I'm going to talk about it sort of at a high level, then I'll kick it over to Shannon and PJ, you want to jump in, but back in 2020, the county had applied to get airport essential air service from the DOT with Boutique Air, if you remember, and it was rejected. And one of their primary reasons for rejecting that, there was really no market research to support the business case. And, we can anecdotally talk about it. Well, we think it's a good idea, but really without that market analysis, it's not going to go anywhere. So we don't know for sure if we've got the right stuff, but we think we do, and we want to, undertake that market analysis. And there was funding that was approved through the American Rescue Plan Act, the $24.6 million that the county got, and we had allocated $75,000 of that. The ARPA working group recommended it to the legislature, and then the legislature didn't approve it. And part of the reason why is we feel is that there was no skin in the game from anybody else. It was all county. And we, by demonstrating, I think that the business community through the IDA, which we represent the business community, is willing to kick in to help. So really, this is allocating $25,000 of a estimated $75,000 study or analysis, market analysis. And our contribution of $25,000 would be contingent on the county allocating $50,000 of the ARPA money to undertake this market analysis really quickly. So, it's really looking at, do we have the ridership? What kind of leakage do we have? In other words, where are people that are flying out of this region? Where do they go to fly out of? Where do they go? And that kind of thing. So, Shannon, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, you touched on a lot of great points. So I was just going to add a little bit more to what the study would involve. Like Mark was saying, a lot of studies have been done, and I know we don't like the word study, maybe analysis or whatnot in the county, but we don't know where everybody's flying from, where you're spending your money at. And like he said, it's a possibility that air service may not be the best thing for Chautauqua County, but we don't know. We hope that it is. But without any data showing that people are actually going to fly, we hear every day that we want air service back, but did you ever fly? You know, are you going to fly? How many times are you going to fly? Where do you spend your money now? How often do you? Someone has got to get out there and do that. We do not have the resources within the county or myself to go out and do that study on our own. And so seeking that help through a consultant, we've already, you know, in the past undertaken a proposal. We got a proposal from someone, and we do think that this is the best avenue and a first great start to the potential opportunity to have air service back in our community. So you want to add to that?
Yeah, so, people that love me, I'm a movie quoter, and when I came in office, I was convinced that there was a missing piece to our airport feasibility, our essential air service, et cetera. So working with Ron, I put it in the budget. It was, it was a capital project. It got taken out. I put it in, it got taken out. So play this game. As Shannon said, that the members of the legislature, and, Kevin could attest to this. I was there for 8 years. We understand the commitment, because every time we did another study or another engagement with the FAA, there was another 10-year or whatever commitment to the FAA. And, I understand the belief of some that if it's the wrong thing, why do you just keep getting yourself in deeper, if you will? But my belief was taking all the studies and let's put it down on the table. And, if you're watching Apollo 13, we need to make one of these fit into one of these using all of this. Well, it's the same thing. We want the essential service. Now let's look at the studies we've all done. Was the answer in those studies? I say a lot about my staff and my team, and Shannon was a huge addition. So Shannon had the background and the knowledge and the understanding of what the missing piece was. And it was this air feasibility analysis. And, the market analysis, and, she's had airlines approach her and said, hey, do you have this? No. And then they kind of, okay, thank you, goodbye. So again, getting this analysis in here will put it to bed, once and for all. Now, of course, if the analysis comes back and says, no, it's not essential air service, then they say, hey, we told you wasted money. Well, you know what? We don't know if we don't get this study done. And this is the one missing piece. This analysis is the missing piece. So I've supported it 100%. I feel now that it's not, like Mark said, it's not an entire burden on the legislature, if you will, to look at the study. The IDA is going to assist in it if this goes through, and it really will once and for all. And, it was asked, and Greg is sitting here, he's done an article about the airport. One of the things I said, if this doesn't come true, if it doesn't say we could, essential air service would be supported, then Shannon has a plan to shift gears and move, towards how do we make this a general aviation airport, and how do we start to gain revenue and build that base up again. So, I think this is important. It's vital, and it's really going to finally answer the question that we've been asking. And that question hasn't been answered. So again, I appreciate the consideration here for this, but it's something I strongly support. And again, I'd go on the record, if it comes back and says no, then we shift gears. Shannon's already got some ideas, and working on making this more, general aviation, and look at how do we increase revenue and increase our opportunities.
I guess I just wanted to add too that, Brian and he was here during the time that we put the previous applications in, and we've since had conversations with the DOT. They don't come out and say exactly what they want, but everything that we've asked for in the past was in those applications except for this. So it was done by an airline. It was done by Boutique. They had data in hand for Boutique. It was not done by the airport. And that I think is a huge missing piece, because if someone came to you, would you want all the data or just from one specific airline? So I think from our conversations with them, that is really what they're looking for. They won't come out and say, yes, this is what you need, but this is the data that you need. And that can only be found in this air service study. So.
Very good. Did anybody else have any questions?
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious, it obviously makes a lot of sense to prove whether essential air service is going to work or not here. If it says, yes, there's still a case to be made and it's going to move forward, will the study be available to potential airlines to be making proposals so they could then maybe adapt where they're flying into based on, like you said, our consumer activity, if you will?
Yes. So that's the whole point of the study, would be to go into that essential air service application again, along with an airline. So it may not be Boutique, it may be a different one, but that data, we're going to work along with an airline and then go in again. Last time though, the application was submitted with the data that Boutique produced.
Sure.
And I'm not saying it was a bad application, it just wasn't, I don't think, what the DOT wanted
Right.
at that time, so. You have anything else to add to that,
I
Brian?
think that's right.
Okay.
Very good. Any other questions? Brad, would you go ahead and move new business A1?
Resolution 1-24-23-01. Resolution of the members of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency approving funding for Jamestown Airport Development Market Analysis Study.
Thank you. And do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Steve. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenreiter.
Aye.
It's unanimously approved. So I know it's we all hope that things work out well with the airport. It's been a long time, but I can remember flying out of the airport and you know, how convenient it was. And oftentimes we have customers asking, you know, we get a lot of visitors. It's not very convenient for them to fly into Buffalo, rent a car, drive down. And, you know, we're just one small company. I'm sure many of the bigger companies could really use it. So hopefully this gets us going in the right direction.
Great. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
And just as another good example, you know, Senator Schumer flew in the other day to Jamestown and his entourage flew to Buffalo. They flew commercially and had to drive down. So, I mean, not just saying for one person, but that's just an example of where it really would have been helpful.
Definitely.
We really appreciate everything. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
We'll move along to new business B. Martin, New York, CSG LLC, presented by Rosie and Millen.
Okay, thank you. So today we have Martin New York CSG LLC. It's a 5 megawatt AC solar farm on 29.5 acres located in the town of Ripley at 5246 Route 76. Project cost of $8,687,350. We spoke with the town supervisor, Doug Bowen, and the town board did approve the solar project and gave them a special use permit. They submitted an application last August. This board approved back in September the due diligence agreement and resolution. In November, we had a public hearing with no comment. And so today we have before you the deviation resolution, the seeker resolution, and approving resolution. Also worth noting, the town did do the seeker and it was concluded with a negative declaration. I do have Tim Ahrens and Catherine Shep from Clean Choice Energy here with us today. Would either of you be able to touch on the decommissioning bond and any visual mitigation for the project?
Sure thing. Thanks again for having us. So the decommissioning bond is addressed in the special use permit. That was one of the conditions of the permit. I can give you the exact amount if you need it, but we're already in agreement with the town on that. And then there are trees that will be planted along the road to screen the view shed of the project. And then there's existing trees behind the project. So that's how we are dealing with the site.
Thank you, Catherine. Is there any other questions for Catherine or Tim? Okay, I'm going to have Millen go ahead and conduct the deviation hearing portion and then provide descriptions of the resolution and their purposes.
First is the deviation hearing. This pilot would be a deviation from your UTEP. The deviation is $4,500 per megawatt for 25 years, increasing at 2% per year. That's sort of in the ballpark of many of the other solar projects that you've done. Notice of this deviation hearing was provided to each of the affected tax jurisdictions by letter dated January 12th, 2023. I will note that it was sent certified mail return receipt requested, which is now the new statute requires. Rosie, we've not received any comments
No
from any of the
comment.
affected tax jurisdictions. I will open it up. If any members or representatives of any affected tax jurisdictions have any comments they want to give at this time, The hearing is open. Hearing no comments, we'll close the hearing. Next are the three sort of typical resolutions. The first is a deviation resolution resolving to deviate from the UTEP pursuant to the hearing that we just had. The second is a seeker resolution. As Rosie said, the town of Ripley conducted its own seeker investigation. They did a coordinated review, but since we did not have an application, the IDA was not named as involved agency, which means that you need to do your own seeker resolution, seeker analysis. The resolution in your package runs through 17 different items that were considered by both the town and by us as your council. And we recommend coming to the same conclusion that the town does. This does not have a significant adverse effect on the environment. And lastly is the approving resolution. If this goes through and approved, I think that the developer is ready to close. So we pursuant to documents that have now become standard. We've now closed a number of these solar projects. As you will recall, we had probably 20 or more sort of in the queue, and we now find for lots of reasons they are starting to close. So this one presumably would close, I think, fairly quickly, unless Tim and Catherine correct me otherwise. So those are three resolutions.
Do we have any questions? So I think we can go ahead and move all of these resolutions at the same time. Is that? Oh, okay. Rhonda, would you go ahead and move new business B2?
Yes. Resolution 1-24-23-02. Mediation approval resolution, Martin, New York, CSG LLC. And resolution 1-24-23-03. CREDC resolution, Martin, New York, CSG LLC. And resolution 1-24-23-04. Final authorizing resolution, Martin, New York, CSG LLC.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Megan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenreiter. Approved unanimously, and so we getting more and more of these solar fields are going in, and it's good to see them, and it's nice to see them starting to come through finally. I know there was a lot of problems getting solar panels and that, and so we like to see these moving ahead.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Rob. I'll be in touch.
We'll go ahead and move on to new business C, accepting county funds. And Nate, are you gonna speak on that, or?
Mark, you want to? I'll jump on this. So this, every year, the county enters into two contracts with the IDA for business development assistance and promotion, really to provide funding to us to do what we do. And also provide tourism, business and destination development and promotion. So the first one is for 160,000 and some change, and the second one is for 80,000 and some change. But this is so that we can sponsor events, that we can have memberships for things like Invest Buffalo Niagara, other promotional activities that we do through ads and promotion and events and all of that. And also for attracting tourism related businesses, like we've helped out a number of marinas, or like the Harbor Hotel or Doubletree, and those kind of hospitality associated businesses. So again, this is an annual allocation to the county, or to the IDA from the county, and every year we do an annual summary report that we present back to the county. And we also presented the Planning and Economic Development Committee subcommittee of the legislature. We'll do that in February, where we kind of report out what we've done. So pretty basic.
Any questions? Hearing none. Steve, would you go ahead and move new business C1?
Sure. Resolution 1-24-23-05. Resolution of the members of the County of Chautauqua Industrial Development Agency approving entry into various grant agreements with Chautauqua County.
And do I have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. We'll go ahead with a roll call vote. Gary Henry votes aye. Brad Walters.
Aye.
Rhonda Johnson.
Aye.
Stephen Thorpe.
Aye.
Kevin Muldowney.
Aye.
Sagan Sheffield Smith.
Aye.
Dan Hetzenreiter.
Aye.
Approved. At this point, did you want to go ahead and give your update?
Oh, no, so we get one more, right? Oh, no, that's for CREDC, I'm sorry. Yeah, so thank you. Thank you, everyone. I try to do this every year. We started, I don't know, it was 3 years ago or 4 years ago. Providing a kind of a summary, discussion about the year we had. And about 3 years ago, I put together a pretty kind of, when I look back, sort of a basic annual report that I just did on my computer. And then, 2 years ago, it got a little better. Last year was even better. Now this year, I think it looks pretty darn good. And not only does it look better, but I would say that the content is better because of that much more. And so what I want to do today, and I mean, look, I could spend hours on this. I really could. And I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to spend an hour and a half. But, I really feel like, I got to go through this quickly and it's not going to give it justice because there's just so much work that we did. And the successes we've had is really, I would call it unprecedented. And I think you'll feel that after I get through this, and I'm just going to skim this but I want you to take this home. We've got extra copies. We want to get this around. I hear a lot that people say, oh, you need to be telling the world more about what you do and sort of ringing your own bell. And maybe we don't do that enough, but this is our opportunity to sort of do that. We do have a press release that will go out after this that sort of summarizes this, but in a nutshell, and again, I'm going to go fairly quickly here. And I'm starting with the first page. You can follow along if you want, but the number of projects that we did this year, 50 projects. That includes loans, grants, pilots. That's a big number. And the total investment approved and committed to. So this is the total investment that we approved in 2022, either through loans or grants or pilot incentives, is over 500 million. Last year it was, I believe it was about 140 million last year. It's over 500 million this year. We did 9 LTEC loans. We did 8 EDA CARES Act loans. We secured $2.8 million in grant funds. And the number of jobs to be created, full-time equivalent jobs to be created from our work is 363. And the number of jobs retained is 774. And we can't forget that these projects that we approved are going to create hundreds of temporary construction jobs, which are also very, very important to our economy. If you go down to the bottom, we provided this sort of graphic, if you will, the 5 pillars of economic development. And, I always felt like, my past experience that, our IDA does more than just, and I think IDA should do more than just sort of provide incentives to businesses. I mean, I think we need to have a more sort of a broader focus, and that is we need to be thinking about placemaking, creating communities that people want to live, right? We need to be thinking about infrastructure, water lines, sewer lines, electric. We need to be thinking about housing, creating housing that meets the needs and the demands of talent, right? We got to have the right housing stock and workforce development. Of course, we talk to businesses every day. I need people. So that's really those sort of 4 or 5 pillars of economic development is really what the partnership is all about and why we created the partnership, to sort of take a deeper dive into those other 4, especially placemaking, infrastructure, housing, and workforce readiness. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later on. I think that we've delivered on our mission of attracting new businesses while promoting the retention and expansion of existing businesses. That's right in our mission statement. We've continued to act as a mechanism that for undertaking projects that align with our economic development strategy that we developed a couple of years ago. We're doing a lot of that through the IDA and the partnership. We're all working together. It's planning. It's the planning department, which is awesome. The partnership and the IDA. And just to be clear, the partnership is under the umbrella of the IDA. Okay. So it is a program of the IDA. And that's why I'm talking about it today. But I just want to, and I'll say it at the end probably, the reason we were able to do all this is we have a very capable staff. We have a very capable board. We have community volunteers that are contributing, consultants, and so many others. And then, of course, I commend the leadership of County Executive Wendell. He's done a great job. We talk all the time, and he's like just always positive and always encouraging. Yeah, let's do it. And I love that. And then, of course, the county legislature has really treated us well. And we've gone and asked for things in there, and they so I want to point out them too. You go to the next page, real high level, right? Some of the key projects, ConnectGen, 270 megawatt solar project in South Ripley, a $348 million project. And it's going to provide, significant payments to landowners, to the taxing jurisdictions, host a community agreement with the town of Ripley, the fire department, on and on. So that's a significant project. Electrovia, a $42+ million project, the old Heidenheim building in the town of Ellicott. Is going to create dozens of jobs. They're going to make lithium ion batteries. We worked for a couple of years on this, and it was great to see that it finally was approved. And there's still a lot of work to be done. To be honest with you, I mean, there's we got to continue to work with them. Just because things get approved doesn't mean they're necessarily going to happen. It doesn't. Our work doesn't stop when we approve it here at the board. We got to help get those projects launched and implemented. We approved a bunch of 11 solar projects, all of 5 megawatt or less, and they total those projects total $65 million of investment in our community. Again, helping out landowners, communities, taxing jurisdictions, etc. We approved 8 EDA loans, and that really rounded out that $10.5 million that we got as a grant from the EDA, but a lot of that money is now coming back. So it's continually building, and we're lending it. So, there's some great, Coalcraft and Artone and Merritt Winery, Bemis Point Inn, all really great projects. Our LTEC loan, which has been active for 40 years, I want to say. We did 8 projects there, approved 8 projects. The Welch building, Portage LLC, Ghostfish Brewing, Lexington Machine, the Hideaway Bay, 42 Lake Erie LLC. So some great projects there. The Partnership for Economic Growth, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but I did want to point out here that we are getting significant support from our local foundations. Those include the Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation, and the Gebby Foundation, and the Ralph Wilson Foundation, and also the IDA. We're putting our own resources into, making sure that, and of course the county, to making sure that organization keeps moving along. But the partnership was awarded over $1 million from Ralph Wilson Foundation, and then it was awarded $930,000 in 2022. $930,000 in 2022 from a range of sources, including ARPA from the county, local foundation, and others. The White Inn, $4.5 million investment. We worked really hard on that. marketing it, making sure that, the place didn't fall apart. I mean, that I could go, talk ad nauseum about all the work that we put into this, but this is a really exciting project. It means so much to the village of Fredonia, and we've had a lot of help, a lot of partners. Fortunately, Steve St. George and Devin Jones from Fredonia have going to put their heart and soul into this thing. Exciting. Shovel-ready sites. You hear it all the time. We've been hearing it for years. We need to be doing something about our shovel-ready sites. Well, we're doing something. The county allocated 2.8 million of the ARPA funds, and then $730,000 from capital projects over the last few years, because we've been bugging them. Look, we're dead in the water if we don't have good sites for developers. And so we did a whole analysis. We narrowed it down to a few sites. We really dug in, and now we're moving on that. And there's a lot of work involved in getting getting appraisals done and negotiating with landowners and doing all the due diligence stuff, the geothermal, the SHPO, the environmental stuff. And so we're making really great strides, and we're hopefully going to have something to announce here later this year. So and we'll continue to do that. And there's other sites that we're looking at in the North and South County. So we'll continue to do that. Silver Creek School repurposing. Region 9 is a company that has been looking at renovating. It's a big renovation, the old Silver Creek School, and putting $24 million into it, making into a housing project. And we've been helping them the whole way. Christine Morbido has had a lot of discussions with them, and of course the Restore New York, we helped out with that grant for them. They got $1 million, Nate and his team. So that hopefully is going to work out. We'll see. We're crossing our fingers, and we're going to keep pushing. We received funding through the ARPA. I talked about it. Some of the things I wanted to point out here was a marketing assistance to businesses and non-for-profits. Worked with Dan Heitzenreiter, Courtney Curatolo, our team in putting together a program to help businesses with grants to upgrade their marketing, and which includes a lot of things. But the chamber was sort of on the ground, meeting with people, making sure that the projects were for real. The Small Business Development Center helped us partner with us to develop a website and a fillable application and And we got such a interest in the program that we were able to fund 35 projects that averaged about 8,000 per grant. And we had a waiting list of 35, 40 or more businesses. And we just found out that the Ralph Wilson Foundation is going to give us another 250 or 350?
258,000.
Yeah, $258,000 to fund the rest on our waiting list. So that's really good news. And then we worked with Insight Consulting, helped us with an ESG white paper that we're going to be rolling out. And then we worked with Invest Buffalo Niagara. And it says 5 companies here, but 4 companies they helped out with, they have an economic gardening program that helps companies that are sort of tier 2, they're sort of primed to go to the next level and don't know how to get there, and they provide consulting to them. So that was good. We're overseeing a broadband expansion project, $2.5 million. The idea is to provide broadband to unserved and underserved communities. And we've contracted with a company called ECC. We're getting that rolled out. It's going to take a while, but we hope to turn that $2.5 million into 10 million, 20 million. We'll see. There's a lot of federal and state money out there that we're chasing after to do that. And collaboration with Dunkirk and Jamestown, we talked about earlier about the DRI. We helped out the last 2 years. I think we spent $50,000 or $60,000, I want to say, with consulting assistance, with weekly meetings to really help the city of Dunkirk put together this application with a video Jason worked on. And, you know, they were successful and they acknowledged that. And I was really happy about that we're able to stand up there with them holding the check, you know, because we, you know, and it's been a great collaboration. The other one is the Chattacoin River Strategic Business Plan. You know, we had a vision for the basin down here and, you know, it's navigable. And how do we get more people down there? And how do we get boat traffic down there? We cobbled together the money to hire a consultant and we queued up projects and we applied for funding. Christy Kathman was very involved in this and lo and behold, the project working with the city, the BPU, Gabby, private sector. And lo and behold, the city, the project was awarded $1.2 million last year to do things like signature gardens down there, channel markers, kayak launch, boat docks, tiered seating, visitor kiosk, removal of debris. You were involved, you've been involved too as well. And then this year, we applied for another $360,000 because we sort of felt maybe that's not quite enough to do what we really want to do. And we were awarded another $360,000 for that. So we'll keep that rolling. In terms of, and that's sort of high level, there's a whole bunch of other stuff, but that's sort of high level top 10. In terms of 2023, really, we want to get these buildings that are sort of key buildings, signature buildings in our communities back into use like we did with the Welch's building and the White Inn and others. But, you know, those include the Furniture Mart building, that building right there, the Telkett Street building that we own. And we're working hard on that one, really hard. And we're getting closer and closer. The Silver Creek School I already talked about, truck light. You know, we got some things brewing there. So we're going to keep that going and keep working on that. Lakeshore Hospital, PJ and I have had conversations about that. Of course, there was a press release the other day about a company buying that. And so we're going to continue to work with them and hopefully have a good outcome there. You know, we're always going to be aggressive. Our business development managers contact their list every year of people and they have a conversation and we get in there, we meet, we invite the county executive and we get in there and say, you know, what's going on? What are you doing? You know, what's on the horizon? How can we help? And we bring in the state. So we do that. And we're going to continue to do that. Wells Enterprise, of course, we all know that they got bought out with Ferrero, an Italian company. And, you know, they had a reduction and the reduction ended up not being as bad as they thought it was going to be, but still, and we never like to see that, but we continue to talk with them about their future. And once Ferrero gets a presence in the United States, expanding that business and ramping back up to prior levels and beyond. And also Immunity Bio, of course, you know, that's, you know, starts and stops there. And we're going to continue to support them however we can. We're going to continue to support the Partnership for Economic Development. You know, it's, by the way, the success of that has been beyond my wildest dreams of what we've been able to do there. Acquire shovel-ready sites. I talked about that. We're going to continue to do that. Marketing and branding to reverse population decline. We hear it over and over again. We've been losing population in this county since 1970. And, you know, what do we do about that? You know, and it's not an easy thing. It really has a lot to do with how do we brand ourselves and how do we tell the world, you know, what a great place this is to live and conduct business and visit. To retire, whatever. And so, you know, we've pulled together $150,000. We developed an RFP. We're in the process of hiring a company to help us put together a strategy and also to totally revamp our website. And that's part of what the ABO has said to us too in their assessment of us, right? You know, we need a better website, and we do. So we're working on that, and we hope that in the next 3 or 4 weeks to have a consulting firm under contract to help us do that. ARPA funding award, you know, I already talked about those, but we'll make sure that we get all those projects done. You know, there's site acquisition and infrastructure. There's the Partnership for Economic Growth, implementing economic development related projects, workforce development initiative with WIB, JCC, CCVB, CCIDA. That's underway. Cornell Cooperative Extension got some money. we're in constant contact with them, and I already talked about the marketing assistance to businesses. The DRI, the Chattacoin River, when we put this together, we didn't know that the DRI was going to be awarded yesterday, and we didn't know until Friday, actually, of last week that we got the announcement, oh, big award up in Dunkirk. We're like, well, what else could it be, right? We'll continue to work on the Chattacoin. And then, we undertook a ag development enhancement strategy last year, and it concluded with 10 recommendations. And we're working with the county planning department to identify, the whole idea was to have one major thing a year that we could get implemented and do that over 10 years, one a year, over 10 years. And they're big things, they're not little things. So we're in the process right now of identifying a project and then rolling that out. And so we'll continue to work on that. And then, of course, the NRG plant. We've received two different grants. We received a Southern Tier West ARC grant, and then we received a NYSERDA grant. And that first grant was sort of looking at 10,000 feet about what seems to, make sense and what doesn't make sense there. And then, concluded that something like a data center or an industrial multimodal type facility there would make sense because of the port and the rail going in there. It's got terrific electric capacity and all that kind of stuff. And then we got a NYSERDA grant, $160,000 to really dig in deeper and really look at the site, and look at the constraints, and look at the challenges, the environmental stuff, identify areas that could be developed and how they might be developed, and rolling that out to companies that we feel would be attracted to that type of thing, and providing them the right type of information they need in order to make a decision about that. So we'll continue down that path, and it's not going to happen overnight. Okay, so I'm sorry, I'm talking way too much. I realize that, but I got a lot to say. Okay, so the Partnership for Economic Growth, again, we've provided here a flow chart sort of where the partnership sits. It's under CREDC, and then the partnership has an advisory board. And then there's co-chairs of each of the 5 working groups. And, we get assistance from the planning department staff. So we're all working together. We meet quarterly with the business development or the work groups. And what we're really doing is defining projects. And those work groups are made up of key stakeholders in the community that are associated with those particular activities. And really defining projects as a group, what we want to pursue over the next year. Now, and this goes back, it started 3 years ago, 4 years ago. And last year, we really got our feet under us, and you can see what we accomplished. We engaged 65 partner organizations. By the way, Nate's managing this. I already said that, but Nate and Christy and Crystal, and Monica Simpson are all part of pushing this thing along. But 65 partner organizations engaged, grants awarded directly to the CREDC and the partnership, 9. And by the way, we're 100%. We applied for 9, we got 9, and there's more to come. Pretty amazing. We assisted 38 different projects, and I'll talk about those a little bit more, but through technical assistance and other means, helping write grants, all that kind of thing. We secured $1.5 million in funding. I talked about that through the county, the foundations, et cetera. We had 40 partnership meetings. We had 100 meetings with community stakeholders, and we pushed out over $400,000 in funding to communities, and I'll talk about that. But projects, people apply to us just like you would apply to the state for funding. We have a whole application, guidelines, and then we rate those. We have criteria to rate the projects, and we allocate direct grants to help these communities that don't have it. They don't have it in their budgets to do this stuff. So some of the grants that we were awarded on the next page are, we got $100,000 from Northern Chautauqua Community Foundation. We got $25,000 from the Ralph Wilson Foundation. Outside of that $100 or that $1 million, for the Friends of Greenways initiative. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. I'm just looking at some, $500,000 from the county through the ARPA funding. We got 125 for trail development. We got money for special tourism development and marketing. We got a craft beverage ecotourism marketing grant for 75. And then additional grants leverage. So in other words, our money went into a project that became more than just our money. So we leveraged our money, and you can see some of those projects. $6 million West Side Sewer Extension project. The White Inn project, 520,000. White Inn again, 1.5 million. And these are grants that we were awarded by leveraging our money. Restore New York for the Silver Creek Region 9 project that I talked about. The Welch's building, another $1.5 million Restore New York grant. These are all big lifts too. These grants are not a page or two. They have a lot of components to them. There's a lot to it. The P&G building, we assisted with that too in Dunkirk on Main Street. And then Department of State LWRP for the Mayville Water Activation Project. The Mayville project was a lot like this one was with the Chattacoin. We recognized that there was they had a lot of assets with the Mayville Park, and it probably weren't totally beneficially exploiting those. So we worked with the community to develop a strategic plan, to outline projects, to come up with high-level cost estimates, and then we almost like plug and play into grant applications. And then we used our money to leverage. And they were awarded $675,000 for a number of different projects, like the Chautauqua Bell, some trails. I can't remember what the other ones are, but I know it's in here. I'll talk about that in a minute. And then I'm going to go real quick now. Workforce, we got these different work groups, and and I invite you to look at the, for each one of these work groups, they really have some priority projects that they're working on. So, with the workforce development group, talent attraction and retention, they're involved with the stuff that we're doing. That I talked about. Workplace culture, I talked about that ESG, environmental social governance white paper that we're going to push out to businesses to sort of give them a template for how they can improve their workplace culture, because that's part of the equation. You got to have places where people want to work. Business development, shovel-ready sites, talked about that. Chattacoin River activation and development. I talked about that. And you know what, we'll probably take a year off and applying for grants, maybe not, so that we can implement these. And then in a year or two, we'll apply again for several more projects, and we'll just keep it going because we have a whole laundry list of things that we want to get done. NRG, I talked about that. Talked about the ag development enhancement strategy. And then the Chamber of Commerce, we have these partner-led projects, like the Chamber of Commerce is a shop local CHQ program. We awarded them $10,000 in funding to help them with that program. We helped the Fredonia Technology Incubator with a $20,000 grant to do a sort of comprehensive analysis of the incubator and how it can be maybe better situated and better utilized. And so that the DRI, I talked about that, 10 million. Trail maintenance, marketing and development. This is under the placemaking work group. We hired Jacob Bodway. He's been a real catalyst for making things happen on the trails. He's from the Western New York Mountain Bike Association and was on the county Parks Commission, and it's been working with him and bringing in grants and pulling together all the disparate trail organizations to sort of function as one voice to secure funding. I talked about the Village of Mayville strategic plan. The things that we got, that $675,000 LWRP grant included the Chautauqua Bell Gateway improvements, a new kayak launch, and a waterfront pedestrian and bicycle trail. And the village is thrilled with that. We work on the tourism transportation shuttle with the carts group and helping them to pull together the information they needed to hire a consultant to help them rebrand and looking at routes and we had them over here for one of our work groups for our placemaking work group. And we actually took a tour on one of their tour buses. They have 3 of them and they're going to set up routes to help the tourism companies or tourism entities like hotels and others to transport people back and forth to sites and the hotels. Craft beverage, wine and ecotourism marketing initiative. And we were awarded $75,000 to help this sort of tell our story about all the great adult beverage opportunities there are in this community. Some of the other, again, partner-led projects, we awarded $10,000 for the Portage Inn site development strategy, $25,000 Lakewood Hartley Park, $10,000 for Casadega Lakes kayak launch, $10,000 to a pathway to vibrant downtown Westfield. Been under the housing development work group. We're working on a housing market action plan, which is really going to look at our housing market and determine really 2 things. One is sort of what do we need? What are we lacking? And what is the demand for those entities? We get approached by a lot of companies that do marketing or housing development. And one of the first things they have, well, you have a market study? No, we just think that this would work, so it's like the same thing with the airports, right? So we're working on that. We're working on a consolidated code administration and enforcement study. We have a CGR under contract and, there's something that people talk about, better code enforcement. Well, we think that we could really take a deep dive and look at that and see if there's a better way to do it. With all these communities, it could be 5 communities sharing one code enforcement officer and some communities have their own, we just think there might be a better way to do that. And we're looking at that. So some of the projects that we helped fund were really a land bank project, looking at countywide parcel data and information management. And then under infrastructure, New York State Route 394 Public Water Supply Technical Assistance, we awarded them $15,000. Lakeshore Drive Complete Streets Project, $50,000 in the city of Dunkirk. Sunset Golf Course Property Conceptual Development Plan. We worked hard on that, right, Nate? Yeah, that was a lot of work, $4,200 on that. And so much more. This is just scratching the surface, but I think you get an idea of sort of some of the things that we're doing and we're going to continue to do. So I think, our board of directors, this next page sort of looks at our, highlights our board of directors. We had that the event with all the past county executives at the Robert H. Jackson Center. That's in here. There's a picture of us on the trolley. You can see our staff, talk about our staff here and we got a best in class staff here. So, and I think, like I said, at the Christmas, the holiday gathering that, I think that hopefully we're creating a culture that our employees want to come to work every day and want to do their best and want to contribute. And we have that. And so I think everybody, it's just been it's been an epic year. And we're going to continue to move things forward.
Got to say that the breakfast was really nice.
Yeah.
The county executive breakfast that you did.
Yeah.
And then, Jack passed away about 3 months after.
Yeah, he did.
Hats off to you guys for putting that together.
His daughter came up to us at that event. And she said, I can't tell you what this means to Jack. Just before the event, she said, he's been talking about it for months. And how apropos, right? That we had that in a few months, and that was Greg's idea.
Yeah.
That whole thing was Greg's idea. So,
way to go, Mr. Peterson.
Yep.
By the way, there's a complete set of baseball cards of each of those guys having their hats. Jamestown Tarp Skunks.
Uh-huh.
So if you ever see those, they're
cool.
really rare. Completes all 8 of them.
We sent out pictures of the event. Each of them got baseball cards. We followed it up afterwards in a professional way. Nice. Is there any questions or comments or?
If I could just, I was actually at a meeting this morning, and so that's, otherwise I might not have said anything, but I was meeting with one of our usual partners, and they just got back from a conference in Albany and said, other peers from across the state are like, how in the heck out there are you working so close with your IDA and, getting funding for your clients and things? And, I just wanted to highlight that I guess it's not like this across the state. So, hats off to you, to Nate, the partnership, your whole team. I know we appreciated the chamber working closely together, and I think we've got a good thing going with all the partners that we both work together with. So, I appreciate obviously the way you guys do business and, work together. So,
Thanks, Dan.
good work. Yeah.
I just put just a dot on that whole thing is, I think it's utterly remarkable the amount of grants that we have received over time, are getting, as Nate Company. Trust me, other counties have no idea. And on a per capita basis, with the funds that we've received from the EDA, from the LTEC and CRLFs and all that stuff, when you add that all up on a per capita basis, there is no equal. And that's just a tribute of success. Success breeds success. So to the county executives, statements early on, it just to give it a sense of smile for me anyways, how much we have. And sometimes we take it for granted because it just keeps somehow flowing. And the reality is we are abnormal. And that's a credit to this whole team. So from one gray hair, that's the compliment to what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
It's almost as if you should be embarrassed. Yeah, I do this across the state and, no one, certainly not on a per capita basis, comes close to all the activities that you're doing. It's just amazing.
Well, don't be embarrassed. Go ahead.
I feel better.
It really is impressive. I mean, when you take the time to put this together and go through it, I mean, it's almost exhausting trying to go through all of it in just a few minutes, and you're not even hitting everything. You're just hitting the highlights, and to see, but that was just 1 year, and I mean, it's not like, I mean, it could be a decade. And a lot of places would be happy to be able to put something like this together. And so
Don't expect it every year.
once you hit that level, it's just like once you hit a certain level of production, it never goes down. The work you're doing, the whole staff. I mean, it's always so professionally done. And I was a little intimidated to take over being the chairman. But the one thing that gave me confidence was everything always is so well done when you come to the meetings. It's not like, nobody has a clue what's going on and it's all confusion, and it's just very professional. And I think those are the steps that lead to success with a lot of these grants and a lot of the things you're doing.
Thanks.
What's a positive is, just real quick, is, when I go and talk to other county executives, and not necessarily everybody that's a larger county, like Suffolk and Nassau, these bigger places, places like Rensselaer and Albany, just a little bit bigger, what's your relationship with your IDA? I'm like, great. A lot of places don't have that, the IDA, it's a separate entity and a lot of animosity and this constant back and forth. But
County's one of those.
yeah, I mean, it's a testament to what we do. And we are, along with this, we've been part of Brenton Davis, a county executive in Erie, PA. We're looking at a tri-state local or Lake Erie Government Council with Cayuga, Ohio, and Lake County, Ashtabula, Erie, ourselves. Just a lot of activity in this area. So really excited. But what Mark and Nate and these guys are doing, the team, it just kind of spearheads at it. It gets everybody excited to see what we're doing, and they want to bring that energy to the other groups. So I'm excited.
I also, real quick, I wanted to thank, Jason, certainly working really hard on this, and Rose. Thank you for your help, and Crystal and Monica, Christy, pulling all this together in, a couple of weeks. It was a pretty big lift. So thank you.
Excellent. We're gonna do the treasurer's report.
Rich, are you on there? Do you want to talk about the treasurer's report or Kayla?
I do. So typically, Mr. Chairman, in January, we would go over December's preliminary numbers. In February, we would not have a report. In March, we would review the audited financial statements. And then in March, we would look at, in March, we would look at the audited financial statements. And in April, we would take a look at the first quarter of the year. As you can tell from Mark's 2022 year report, we had a lot of activity in 22. We are not prepared to show you the draft for December yet. We've got a lot of entries to make. One of the big things that happens with all these grants is, are they a 1-year grant, a 2-year grant, or a 3-year grant? And when do you recognize all the revenue? So Kayla and I, Crystal and Nate have a little work to do on the financials. So we will have in February a preliminary report showing where we actually are compared to our budget. And then in March, we'll get the audited financial report. So the good news is that I'm briefed today and that we'll have a really good report in February, but I just didn't want to cop something together that, as you say, Gary, I don't want to rush it. I want to make sure we get you good information. So we'll have a report in February for the end of the year that's a little more buttoned up than it would have been today.
Okay, thank you. It's good to see that you're doing well and hope you get a speedy recovery.
Yeah, things are really good. Sitting is the hardest thing right now.
At this time, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the financial or credit history of a particular person or corporation and to discuss matters relating to the proposed acquisition, sale, or lease of real property. In particular, I would like to discuss the status of our loan portfolio and the financial credit status of some of our borrowers. Also, we will discuss certain possible property acquisitions and dispositions, and I believe that discussing them in open session would substantially affect their value. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, executive session.